me into my zone. Please don't let me into my zone. 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 Please don't let me.
Welcome back to Krown's Crypto Cave, coming at you from another rainy and frigid day over here in Helsinki, Finland. Listening to Madonna songs all morning long, getting fucking pumped up and ready for the Trading Friday day. Actually, yesterday was pretty damn fun as we got to do a little bit of live trading on Twitch, and actually decided to take another position on top of that, which we'll talk about a little bit later on this video. Anyways, because it is Friday, I'd like to wish the best of the best and the happiest of the happiest, because why the fuck not? And also let all the people know who are in the program that several updates have actually been pushed to increase the user experience, but little small ones like note taking, like video playing options and whatnot. But definitely check them out. And now we'll begin working on the next big evolution of the Krown trading application, which is incorporating a trading journal, which I'm really excited about because, well, I'm gonna fucking use it. It's really the real answer, and then I hope that that's valuable for other people out there in the world as well. Anyways, I think with all that said, it's time to look at some Bitcoin price action, or actually no, it's time to look at some Krown trading application price action. But we can get to that right over here. I'm switching the scene right now. Wishing you the best, and the happiest as always, because well, more people needs fucking smiles on their face on a good old Friday, because why the hell not, man? It's just better for everyone. Anyways, looking at this right here, we do see that Bitcoin more or less steady on the dominance. I actually do need to make a note to check out the dominance chart today. Been neglecting that for the past few days. And more importantly, open interest got shaved off quite a bit since the last couple of days. We were hanging out above 1.5 billion, now down to 1.3 billion, which is still on the higher end of the side. But I do think that this is going to kind of correlate with a lot of the volatility metrics that we're going to look at a little bit later in this video. Anyways, for right now, those are the folks sees. And also, I do want to point out that the crypto fear and greed index over here is actually ticking at a 44 right now, kind of in the fearful zone, funnily enough. Now, that might be due to my dubiously named titles, because if you're new here, perhaps you've not figured this one out just yet, or maybe you have, in which case, fuck. But if you've been here for a while, then you probably already know this. All my YouTube titles are almost always like nothing to do with the fucking content. It's just to play the YouTube algorithm and have a little bit of fun with it. Maybe poke a little bit of fun at other channels who always talk about the big bad breakout, the imminent price action move that's coming today for Bitcoin. That's like always looming. Anyways, for right now, I'm actually not looking for like major massive price action to happen today, which we'll discuss in just a second here. But I do want to point that out, that the crypto fear and greed index is actually come down quite a bit after getting a little bit more in the frothy zone. So with that in mind, let's get on over here to our trusty Bitcoin chart. And what do you know? Bitcoin still holding on to that critical 9,600-ish level. Now, I've been saying it colloquially as 9,600. Realistically, you could look at that zone as about 9,550 to 9,600-ish region on a higher time frame close, of which we have still failed to close anywhere below the blue box of peace and prosperity. And that's exactly what I did after the video after the live stream that we did on Twitch last night, which, by the way, I'll do another live stream on Twitch today, same time, same place, same bat fucking cave, and I entered into another long trade based upon this. My entry a little bit lower than 9,600, literally the same fucking trade. And I want to talk about this for a second here. This is purely from a trader's perspective. So yesterday, you probably remember that I was actually long somewhere right around here. Right below 96, or like right around 95.50 average price as well. I actually ended up taking a loss in that trade on the Twitch stream. We came down a little bit later and putting this wick down here, right around the 4-hour 200 exponential moving average and 200 simple, of which that shook me out of my trade. I had to have a stop loss in because I'm on video, and that's one of my rules with myself, that I just don't fuck around with that. But what I did immediately after that, once I saw that we failed to get back below the continuation level from this major dump dildo from the 19th, that $1,000 dildo to the downside, is actually did the same thing, expecting that we're probably going to bounce back up at the very least and tag around 9,600, the top side of this blue box area, whether I was bullish or bearish. So I took that trade again, ended up getting out somewhere around 9,700, and then about half at 9,700-ish region or around there, and then the rest right around 96. So that kind of made up for that one, a little bit in profit on the day. And then I took the same trade again right after that video, right around here, on a takedown 95.50-ish region, and I'm actually still in that trade as of the current moment in time. So with that said, I just want to describe that using the same sort of tools as they are is very much relevant to my trading, as nothing's really changed here. This is the point of change, and this is what we spent a lot of time speaking about last night on the Twitch stream. Until something actually changes, my disposition does not change. Now, my emotions float around during the whole goddamn day because I'm a human, just like most people watching these videos. I think that there's a shit ton of like Russian bots probably, judging from the comments section, but for all the people out there, and perhaps if you do identify as like some sort of a Russian bot, well, those emotions I can certainly understand get to people. It gets to me as well. But what I've learned to have the best defense against that is to keep track of it in a trading journal, like quite literally what we're going to be working on as the next update for the Krown trading application, which I forgot to mention is 100% free and found at app.krowntrading.net. Anyways, it sounds like such a fucking show, but it's free, so it's like you can't really shill free shit, I suppose. But anyways, I've kept a trading journal for so long, especially when I was first beginning and kind of like going over, all my emotions related to a trade. And then I could kind of see, trends quite literally in my own emotions with how trades would evolve over time. And what I found really, really helpful was documenting my emotions before I enter a trade, also alongside, of course, your entry, risk management point, and kind of like what you're looking for, take profits and whatnot, and then also recording my emotions during the trade, and then relating it back to the beginning of the trade and saying, hey, did anything actually change here? And if it didn't, then I might feel a little bit weird about it. Maybe the trade's going against me a little bit, but as long as it's all with in accordance with the plan, no real reason to shake myself out of that trade. And that's exactly what we did last night. So I'm very, very happy to just show that's exactly all that it is. I mean, really, at the end of the day, that's really all that it is. Anyways, as Bitcoin stands, I pretty much have the same stance that I've had for the last few days or the last couple of weeks. I'm not bearish as long as we're closing, higher time frame, or at the very least 12-hour dildos above about 9,600. Again, read that as 9,550 if you want to kind of extend this blue box down. It's all the same thing. And as long as we're kind of holding above there, I am, I'm not necessarily like full on fucking bull tard looking for 200 billion kajillion Bitcoins to be hit today or tomorrow or the next day or even like the next 10 years. But I would be generally just looking for price action to kind of put in a nice low here and float its way back on up at the very least to the median of this range, which I have. I could put in a major blue box right here. I think that it would just kind of make the chart more convoluted, but you can imagine it right here, anywhere between about 98.50 to 99.50 in this region right here. I do think that Bitcoin, regardless of whether I'm like fully bullish or fully bearish, is going to tag those points, and then the next sort of evolution of this formation is going to be revealed on if Bitcoin can actually maintain on a lower time frame close, like a 4-hour above about 9,900, 99.50. If that can happen, very, very likely we'll come back up and give another official test to the blue box territory. As what have we done? I mean, we've just been playing from blue box to blue box. That's all it's been. Now, of course, on a 4-hour, it doesn't really look like that, but let's go over here to a 12-hour and you'll see, maybe even a daily, and you'll see that, that's pretty much par for the course. It's a blue box game, and we just tested the bottom side blue box, so probably, if we do tag out this area right here, I'd be looking for a test to the upside of it. Anyways, as it stands, I do believe that we're going to see all lower time frame momentum also start to switch around in this region. We are seeing 4-hour Stokes popping back up. We see 4-hour RSI not really giving us all that much, but more importantly, remember the historical volatility percentile. We saw it get redlined yesterday, but as you can see right here, it's even starting to trend down as we speak, which tells me that we're going to go through a phase of contraction. If we go through a phase of contraction right above a critical support, then that tells me that we're probably going to fill out the top side of the range more likely than not. Keep in mind, it is a weekend coming, in the next day or so. So, fuckery to be abound, but closures for tonight are going to be absolutely critical, which again we'll discuss a little bit later. But I want to get through these lower time frames first. Looking at the 3-hour, probably about the same thing, I'd imagine. Looking at 3-hour Stokes, putting it back up, kind of finding the same support area that we found ever since the middle of February. It looks like ever since Valentine's Day. 3-hour RSI back above the exponential. To me, it looks like we're going to go through some more pullbacks here actually. To me, it actually looks like we're probably going to play in a little bit of a range, realistically speaking, and you're already seeing the contraction phase really get really get aggressive here, for lack of a better term. I want to check out the 2 hour. 2 hours probably going to be even more so. Yes, indeed it is. And hourly is going to be right in line with that. And I'd imagine that hourly momentum oscillators are probably going to be coming down here. And yes, indeed they are. So that means that 2 hour, 1, 2, and 3, and 4 hour kind of are all disagreeing with each other right now, which tells me that we're going to have a little bit of an ebb and flow on the very, very low time frames. I wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin came back down and tagged around 9,600 again. But again, as long as 9,600 does not break, I look at that as just kind of a resetting of momentum oscillators and allowing Bitcoin to just probably float back up towards like the 98.50, 99.50-ish region over the weekend, at which point the next sort of medium time frame call can be made. But for right now, or sorry, more like short-term time frame call can be made. But for right now, Bitcoin just floating kind of aimlessly sideways. And I do believe more or less that we will be kind of testing those, testing the median of this range. Again, whether I'm bullish or bearish, I think that that's very, 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 very likely. We'll look at expected moves a little bit later on here to actually come up with probabilities of that. But for right now, that's what I want to. That's what I want to really focus on. And actually, this would be a good time to be looking at expected moves. Now it does look to me like we could very easily have a move back down to 9,600. I think that's actually kind of likely here, but I don't think that it's going to break. I want to be very clear and direct in saying that, I think that another move back down to like low 96 probably gets bought back on up, and that would precipitate that next sort of attempt to get back around 98.50, 99.50-ish region. So let's go check out expected moves with all that in mind. And sorry, let me just put back on the ranges. So again, the big areas, 95.50 to the downside, and then of course, for the macro to the upside would be about 10,150, 10,200, but more preliminarily speaking, we'd be focusing on this area right here, this $100 range between about 98.50 to 99.50, and above 99.50, I would look for another test up for another like 300, 400 bucks up to this blue box territory here at about 10,200, and if we get a rejection in this region, then I'd be looking for another test and base around 9,600-ish region. Anyways, so let's go check out our expected moves chart and see what he has to say about this, or she, or I don't even know what fucking gender it would be, but I definitely wouldn't want to assume it. Looking at this right here, I am on a 12-hour right now. We do see that the bottom side of the first deviation is actually starting to curl up, which I do like, but it is coming below actually our critical point of failure, right around 94.50. So it's actually below where I would deem price action likely to beget continuation to the downside. Now, here's what I can say though. While that is present, one of the good things about the price action last night is that it gives us a very nice pivot to be working off of. I could also be bearish. One of two things happens here. Either we break below on like a 12-hour total close below 95.50, 9600-ish region. That would be good enough for me to look for a move down to 92 and then probably bounce there and then continuation down to the mid 8s. Or if we just take out yesterday's wick low on this guy right here, which is kind of operating as our current, our current reversal at 93.54 on Mexico. Let's make sure that other exchanges are kind of synonymous with that. We have Stamp right here at 9,400, so that's a little bit more reasonable, and GDAX at 9,400 as well. So I'm going to mark it right there. I'm going to put an alert in, and it's also right in line with the 4-hour 200 simple and 200 exponential moving average. As long as we're above there, I do think that could be another a good pivot as well. So whichever one happens first, either a 12-hour close below 95.50 or 96, or just even a tick below that current operating low that we have coming in from yesterday at about a little bit below 9,400. Both of those would be good enough for me to look for actual continuation and declare this as a legitimate breakdown, not just looking for a target of 9,200, of which I certainly think that we'd get, but I'd probably be looking for a bounce there and then continuation down to around 8,500-ish region, give or take a few hundred bucks. Is where I ultimately think that we'd find some legitimate support. Until that happens, I'm not bearish, and I'm just looking for Bitcoin to kind of probably come back down and tag around 96.50, maybe 9600 even, but probably find its way back into the median of the range at the very least between about 98.50 to 99.50. Which, going back into the expected moves chart right over here again, we do see that that's actually well within the bounds of the first deviation. So very, 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 very likely, especially over the next couple of days, while these kind of squeeze back up to the upside after failing to get continuation of the downside. To me, that's indicative that we're, I wouldn't necessarily call this reaccumulation, but I would say that we're probably going to have a bounce from this region. And that would be within the 68% chance of likelihood to happen. But then again, we're only kind of looking at one side of this, so it's really more like 34% chance. But, coming from a trader's perspective, that's actually, pretty damn good. Anyways, that's only on a 12-hour. Let's go to a daily. So this is going to be calculating 24 hours out. But by the way, that 12-hour is very important, because it's going to get around where the CMEs close later today, and I do think that bodes more or less better for them. Looking at the daily for this, it's actually not too far off funnily enough, bottom side of the first deviation is only about 30-40 bucks lower than what we saw on the 12-hour, and the top side is coming in directly at that 99.50ish region. So if I had to call it right now, I do think that my 98.50ish region is probably not all that relevant. What's more relevant is 99.50. If Bitcoin takes this next leg up, it's very unlikely to stop right here at about 98.50, although I will certainly take a little bit of profit there. Very, very likely that we actually make the full-on move to about 99.50, at which point I'd expect a short-term pullback, probably back down into this pocket down here, and then we'll come back and reassess. Lower-term timeframes, of course, move around, ebb and flow all goddamn day, and the higher-term timeframes don't change all that much, which is why we haven't spoken about them all that much just yet. But again, higher-term timeframes, quite simply put, again, 9,600 to the downside and about 10,200 to the upside. Now, I will say this. Just like with yesterday's price action, we do have another way to kind of be basing price action off of for a confirmed continuation of trend here. In this case, the trend is actually technically down on the daily, but by the same token of the upside, no longer would I have to wait for 10,500 to 10,550 to get hit to look for that continuation to 10.9 to 11,000. But I'd actually look at this last spike high right here and rejection as that continuation point, which is coming in significantly lower, about 200 to 300 bucks lower, right around about 10,300-ish region. So anywhere back above there is good enough for me, and I'd be looking for ultimate continuation to about 10.9 to 11,000 and probably beyond. Now, I will say that Bitcoin's resilience around this 9,600 pivot is good, and the reason why is because this is not just a medium and short-term time frame pivot, but also like a macro time frame pivot. Let me just get everything off right here. Going over to a weekly, I think that this is just easiest to be seen on CMEs. I'm actually going to destroy the whole damn chart, so we'll put this one back together in just a second. But realistically, the big bad thing to be aware of right here is the weekly pivot. The weekly pivot coming in exactly, for CME, it's going to be a little bit higher than what we see on spot, but it would be akin to that 9,600-ish level, which on CMEs is trading at about $100 price premium. It's right around 9,700. So as long as we're above there, we have not shattered that neckline back to the downside, and so this breakout as an inverted head and shoulders is still very much valid. And if that breakout is valid, then the target of it is also valid, which again, as long as we remain above that pivot, is technically what I'd be looking for over the more long period of time. And I'd be suggesting a target actually all the way up here back towards our around our August 2019 highs, which is in that like $11,500 to $12,000 region. Again, keep in mind that CMEs does have a price premium on it, which would essentially be akin to the same areas of that. But if we go over here to spot price action, that same spike, that same area on price action was right here, 11,500. So again, CME is going to show a little bit different due to the fact that we have massive, or do we have massive contango right now? No, not really. But we do have contango right now. Futures are trading at a premium. Sorry, not to use like, I fucking hate this terminology because it complicates things, and it doesn't, people just use it to sound smarter is what they do. I see it all the time on fucking crypto Twitter. It's like, hey guys, we have contango here. It's like, all right, you could have just said that we have a premium. Makes just much sense. Anyways, my point is that, yeah, we'd kind of be pointed in that same direction. And as long as this weekly does not close below this pivot, that's valid, that's available, and that is technically my disposition as far as the higher and macro times go towards. Of course, this area would also be around the last gap in CMEs that we see coming in back from, August 2019. Actually, in fact, one of the only gaps in price action that I see on CMEs, in fact, the only gap on price action that I see on CMEs is available right around 11,500 to 12,000 bucks. I know that there's a million people are going to say, but Krown, didn't you see the $5 gap on the 5 minute at 7,500? We must go down. It's like, oh my fucking God. Oh, kill me now. No, sorry, I don't mean to sound arrogant with it. It's just, for whatever reason, gaps have become such a meme in this market, which gaps are legitimate and they do hold a lot of fucking weight. But for whatever reason, cryptocurrency people, I would imagine that they probably just haven't traded traditional markets where gaps are pretty prevalent. That's where I come from. I used to be a professional market maker, and this is not a fucking gap down here, or this one's certainly been filled. This one right here is not a gap. These are not gaps in price action use. And if you're wondering, and if you want the full explanation of that and you're in the TA program, check out the second or third to last bonus module that's been uploaded on gap trading and gap theory, and that'll explain why in detail. But for now, I could just plainly say that on YouTube, and all good. Anyways, I haven't even checked out momentum oscillators on the daily here just yet. Let's see what we're looking at. We're seeing a very interesting thing on daily Stokes. Daily Stokes are coming down aggressively hard, and price action is more or less holding the uptrend as far as the daily is concerned. Now, I do want to say that while spot price action is actually technically in a daily downtrend, CMEs are not there just yet. We will be in a downtrend if we do close below 9,600, of course. So that is, again, the point of failure. But until we do that, we technically do not have a downtrend. And I would say that failure to get continuation, even just yesterday, it does kind of tell me that we probably do bounce back up here. And if I had to call it right now, I'm not bearish on Bitcoin until that happens. We do technically have a hidden bullish divergence in progress as well, assuming that this can confirm as a local low, which is almost there. I'd like to see a closure above about 97 on CMEs, and then yes, it would. And then a target probably somewhere around like 10,100 would be initiated, which on spot would be actually around probably like 99.50 to 10,000 bucks. Again, regarding that premium. So on spot, we don't necessarily see the same thing on the daily, because the daily quite literally is in a downtrend on spot here. But remember, when we include weekend price action, I think that that just kind of increases the chance for factory, and the real direction is shown by the week's direction, the trading week's direction. Again, I'm gonna get so massively misheard on this because I know people have like an emotional response to that when I say it. But please hear me out, or at least for the people who actually make an effort to listen for this content. What I'm saying here is that when I see price action happen on a weekend, when I see a reversal happen on a weekend, when CMEs are not trading, I'm very skeptical to look at that as legitimate price action that is likely to get follow through and is indicative of real direction of the market. Essentially, I look at it as like a game of liquidations, which I think, after this past week of looking at this, that's exactly what we got. I mean, Bitcoin absolutely crashed down over the weekend, right? And then what happens as a trading week opens? Well, we come back up exactly where we were, and then have another fall off after that, and that's where things actually got a little bit more nasty. So my point is that the weekend's direction is more or less a game in comparison to the week's direction. It doesn't mean that there's like no fuckery on the weekend, or sorry, on the weekdays. Of course, you can have massive price action movements, but I wouldn't really. I don't think. I'm trying to think of an example where we saw a reversal on a weekend that actually held up, and I can't think of one. I can't think of one. And this is, of course, ever since 2018 would be the time, because that's when CMEs went live. Before that, fair game. But if you're just looking at from 2018 to present, show me a reversal that happened on a weekend. And for every one that you show me, if you can't even show me one, I'll show you about 99% of ones that did not hold up. Anyways, fair enough. And that's kind of my point there. Okay, we'll get off that topic for now. What I do want to show, though, is the 2-day on spot price action. And the 2-day is a very special chart for me, because I do believe that the 2-day chart is more accurate for spot price on Bitcoin. And the 2-day chart, I think the reason why it's better for spot price action to show like the actual direction is because it kind of smooths out that bullshit weekend data, and it operates more like a daily chart in CMEs, funnily enough. And what do you know here? We have the same sort of things going on. We have potentially a higher low being put in place as it stands, in comparison to what we had right on over here, which would include hidden bullish divergence, which likely would be good enough to get us back up to about 10,200, maybe even 10,300, at which point any sort of a high put in above 10,300, I'm bullish for continuation all the way to 10,900 to 11,000 if that trigger is met. For now, we're just kind of ranging. And by the same token, just looking at this right here to the downside, Bitstamp got really far down on that one. Oh, no, that was coming from 2 days ago. Okay, so yeah, 93.12. You can quite literally just use this Doge-ish type dildo right here to kind of judge continuation just by taking out the high and low of it, because it's so violent. But as it stands right now, this would kind of indicate to me, keep on saying indicate is the word that I'm looking for, that we're probably setting a higher low here, and we're going to, at the very least, make another attempt back into the $10,000 region over the next week over the next week. I do think is likely. Now, keep in mind, historical volatility percentile is extremely low on the 2-day, which is probably the most bearish thing on the board. So I don't want to make it sound like it's a done deal that Bitcoin is going to break out to the upside here. I think that Bitcoin's going to test some upside within the bounds of the current consolidation, but getting that next leg up still is a little bit of an issue. I need to see 10,300 taken out before I look for that next major leg of continuation of the like $500 to $1,000 higher. Now, looking at the history of this on 2-day historical volatility percentile, we are basically at I wouldn't say generational lows, but like yearly lows essentially. We very rarely get this low on 2-day historical volatility percentile. In fact, the only times that it's ever been this low were, well, we had a couple examples in 2018, November, that was 6,000 to 3,000 break. Then we had this guy right here in August of 2018, that was 7,500 down to 6,000. We had this guy right here in July, that was like 8,500 down to 6,000. And then we had this guy over here in May, that was 10,000 down to 6,000. All of these local highs right here, right here, right here, if you had to line them up. And then of course the infamous run right here. And those all produced, at the very least, a price action move of 20% or more. Of course. Now, this was all during a long-term downtrend. Over here, we don't have a long-term downtrend. We have an uptrend on the 2-day. Over here, we had a 2-day downtrend. So I would say that trend is obtuse to that. And of course, historical volatility percentile being that low doesn't always mean that things are going to drop off to the floor. If we go to a bullish market before an uptrend market, these low reads on historic volatility percentile coming in right here was quite literally before the whole move from $250 to $20,000 fucking dollars on Bitcoin. So my point is that there's other factors that that dictate direction. The problem is that some of our momentum oscillators are pretty fucking bearish here. 2-day Stokes absolutely nosediving. If this is going to work out in their favor, I want to see them kind of catch hold of the bottom end of the bullish control zone and then flip back up. But we have seen a very similar read to this in the past that has called some nice downs with just looking at 2-day Stokes and 2-day RSI. 2-day Stokes usually calling direction well, although an example right here would be not so well, or it just wasn't that helpful when it's kind of snaking around right here. But the guys coming in from these areas right here were correlated with those low reads on historical volatility percentile and getting this move down here, and then the tail end of this move down here as well as looking at 2-day RSI, just its relationship to the exponential, also getting those moves as well. So I would say that looking at it right now, technically speaking, we have both those in place. 2-day RSI is below the exponential. 2-day Stokes are obviously, as we just saw, angled quite aggressively down. That is obtuse to the current trend, which is up. So I'm less willing to just blindly say that we're going to break down based upon that. I'm more so inclined to say that I do think that Bitcoin's going to test some upside here, probably back up to like 10,000-ish region over the next week, and then the game will begin. And it's basically just a game of whichever side of this doji-ish type dildo that we take out first. Do we take out the top side at 10,300? Then I extend targets all the way to like 10,900, 11,000. Do we take out the bottom side of this guy at 9,300? Then, well, this is not going to be a very helpful target, but I'll be looking for a move down to like 91, 9,200, probably bounce there, and then realistically continuation all the way down here towards the mid, like 85 to 8,600. So that's another $1,000 move in the in the books. So which I'm almost happy to just wait with a stop market order on both ends of this dildo right here and just take the winning side. I mean that's all that has to be on the end of the day. Of course, it's not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm just sharing exactly what I do be doing in these that sort of same situations, and doesn't mean it's always going to work out. I do trust in these statistics that over time it's going to work out in my favor. Well, because I've been doing this long enough to know to experience that firsthand. But as always, I can certainly be wrong, and there's a degree of uncertainty with any sort of trade going on. Anyways, so that's what I'm looking at right now, and I do think that are we closing a 2-day today? Yeah, we are closing a 2-day today. So if this can confirm as a local low, which probably won't do today, but if we were to close above the 10 simple at about 98.50, then it would confirm as a local low, I'd say. Or at least we'd have enough pieces in to accurately say it's probably going to be a local low. Then I would look for price action to actually confirm this hidden bullish divergence, and we'll pop back up somewhere right around like 10,000, 10,100-ish region. But again, that's perhaps a little bit of time away. Anyways, for right now, it's time to be kind of just watchful, and let's go check out our medium time frame oscillators. We do see that 12-hour Stokes are actually technically still up, but weak. I actually don't like that read on 12-hour Stokes. It looks to me like they're kind of having like a bearish reset, which is not good. Now, 12-hour RSI technically does have bullish divergence here between this low and this low, but I do think that we've already played out the easy part of that. Or no, we haven't just yet. 98.50 would be the easy part of that, so we still got another couple $100 actually from this current price point. But right now, Bitcoin's heading back down to that 9,600 level that we spoke about in a very, very low time frame. So I do feel quite confident that area is going to be, or kind of already tested, I suppose. So there you go. Every once in a while, we actually get to see the lower term time frames play out like intra video, which is kind of nice. Anyways, okay, cool. So What else do we want to look at while we're here? I think this would be a good day to, let me just make sure. Oh my, I've already been talking about it for 30 fucking minutes. Let's go back to CMEs for a second. How the fuck have I been talking for 30 minutes? This is insane. This is insanity. Okay, so keep in mind where the weekly is going to be closing on CMEs. Again, 9,700, anywhere below 9,700 or 9,650, 9,700-ish region. Going to destroy that inverted head and shoulders look. Now, CME RSI is looking like a rejection of the bullish control zone. And if that were to happen, I would be looking for it to kind of base around this area. And probably next week actually would be potentially looking for that long-term buy. Let's go look at spots RSI on the weekly. You know, if we did kind of end the week in this region right here, it would set us up for a good test of the blue box territory coming into the next week. So again, as long as 9,600 doesn't break, we should actually test this weekly RSI zone, which I would love to base a long-term trade off of. Yeah, not because it's guaranteed to work out, but it offers up a nice edge. And you do see that long-term, anytime that we've been above this read on the weekly RSI, generally good. Anytime below, generally bad. And all these spikes coming in right here are correlated with all of the major lows of the past market cycles, actually, and the spikes the upside correlating with the major highs of all the downwards markets. So that's my point. Is that you know, I've been waiting for this trade for a long time, a lot of patience included, and perhaps I might actually get it next week. And by next week, we'll also see the exponential meet up with the lower end of this blue box. So I do think that would be a pretty damn good area. And there Bitcoin is back down to our 9,600-ish level. Very, very nice. Anyways, okay, cool. So we spoke about that. Let's go check out the Bitcoin dominance. Been neglecting this for a long time. It's been more or less steady in this region. I do believe that we called kind of like a consolidation phase of this region, and I'd be more or less staying with that. I don't really have a call to be made on this. Yes, there is a death cross going on right here. I don't really trust moving averages on the Bitcoin dominance. If I had to call it right now, I think a little bit of short-term down over the weekend, but really like not anything rocking the boat. So most alts are probably going to rally over the weekend versus Satoshis. And then I do think that this is a nice local low here for a while, and we probably will pop back up and test somewhere around like the middle of the 60s, like 65%-ish region, I'd imagine. So right now we're kind of operating about like a little under 63%. So I do think sometime next week we'll probably pop up a little bit more. But other than that, I don't really have a strong read on this. So I always want to be transparent when I don't feel all that confident. Looking at the crypto total market cap, what do we see here? Is there anything of interest, anything of note that we're not seeing on spot price action? You know, the chart looks a little bit more healthy, but that's really all that I got. All right, let's look at some top shitcoins and see how they're doing. Maybe we can come up with a nice bias. Let's see, Mr. Buterol, kind of like the leader of the market as of recent times. Little bit of pressure here. But kind of a similar read on Bitcoin in the sense that we have some very easy pivots to be going off of. Yesterday's low at 245.25. As long as we remain above there, I do still look at this as kind of an ascending triangle, and this is kind of near the low side of it. Perhaps we can see this better on like a 12-hour. Yeah, we do see it better on a 12-hour. Something like that. Oh man, my charts are so convoluted. Let me pull up a fresh chart here. All right, so here's what I'll do. Here's what the bulls are looking at for Mr. Buterol. Got our top side resistance right there, and then we technically as it is right now, we have rising bottoms. So we do have some sort of an ascending triangle in the making, but that 100% implies that we will not take out yesterday's low. If we take out yesterday's low, which again is about 245-ish, give or take, I'd be looking for an ultimate move back down to this pocket down here, somewhere around 225 to 230-ish region, somewhere in this pocket right here. So I'll put in a nice blue box right there. But that's if and only if we do take out yesterday's low. By the same token, I think that this one's just going to float its way back up, actually. Short term, probably back up to 270, and maybe sometime like in the next week or two, probably test another top side resistance right around here. So that's my main disposition on this. And yes, we do have the same sort of potential hidden bullish divergence in play on the 12-hour as well, between this point and this point, making lower lows but higher lows on price action. So yeah, I actually do feel quite confident this one will pop up at the very least to 270, maybe even test the top side at about 285, and then come back and reassess. That's all coming off the assumption that we don't take out yesterday's low. Taking out yesterday's low, that all gets destroyed, and we're coming down much further. Very likely. What about Mrs. Litecoin? Mrs. Litecoin, certainly not the picture perfect as of recent times. Let me pull up maybe a less fucked up chart than that. There we go. All right, cool. What do we have here? Now, we technically have bullish divergence in play on the 12-hour now, don't we? About the same lows on RSI, price actually making lower lows. This is a local low confirmed. I do think that this is going to get another leg up at the very least to like 75 or 74 and a half bucks. But realistically, probably back up to this medium point right here. 78 and 3/4. Above 78 and 3/4, I'd actually get bullish, not just for a move back up to like $84, but probably $90. That would be like the next major macro resistance, and we'll come to that one if and when it does happen. By the same token, yesterday's low, a nice pivot point to be operating off of as well. And if that does get destroyed, I'd look for a move very likely down here towards $62 to $61. In this territory right here. I'll put a nice blue box right here as well. Blue boxes showing the way on all assets. It's absolutely beautiful. Trust in your blue box territories. They are the way. Anyways, yeah, I think that does it for Litecoin. I do think that's going to test some more intermediary upside. Maybe another wash down to like 70 and a quarter, but that obviously would not be taken out yesterday's low, so it's irrelevant to the more medium time frame perspective, which we were just looking at. The shorter term time frame likely going to follow Bitcoin, of which we're already kind of seeing it happen right now. Other than that, let's go check out Link. I know everyone's really excited about Link. Link still, wow, Link consolidating at a high level here. Now, I do think that Link's going to probably come back down a little bit towards 43,000 Satoshis, but what is this? I mean, it's the same thing as Mr. Beaterall. It's an ascending triangle at the highs. And I do think that this one's prepping to meet fully and formally that 50,000 Satoshi target. This one right here, probably going to have another target in that range. Yes, indeed it is. A little bit north of 50,000 Satoshis. This is all coming along. The 4-hour Stokes crossing back up, having a fresh cross back up to the upside. See 4-hour RSI more or less healthy in this region. And again, same sort of thing here, even though it's paired against Satoshis. As long as we don't take out yesterday's low at 42,500, I am more or less looking at this as reaccumulation. Now, if that does happen, I look for a quick move down here towards 40,000 Satoshis, right around this region right here. But until then, I think that it just kind of fills out this area. And if we can break out the top side of this at about 47,000, I'd look for the next target to be met somewhere around 50,000. Now, I'm saying all of this, and now that I go to a daily, I realize that I'm probably going to be wrong. I'm probably going to be wrong on this one, actually. Not actually. I mean, it's very easy for me to be wrong. But my point is that we do have bearish divergence confirmed on the daily RSI, and we do have daily Stokes turning down as well. I really don't like that read, and I do think that daily Stokes are probably going to meet this trend line here. So does a 4-hour supersede a daily? Absolutely fucking not. I would still wait for that trigger for yesterday to get to get taken at 42,500. But if that does, if it even ticks below that, I'd be looking at a move not even back down to like 42,000 Satoshis, but probably like 40,000 even right here. Until that happens, I'd still kind of have a general bullish bias, but I don't think that that's going to work out like that. Well, I could go either way on this one, but again, the triggering points for this one are going to be the key ingredients. And to the upside, a triggering point, not just a close above, let's call it like 47,000, but even just tick above 47,400, the high of 2 days ago, would probably be good enough for continuation to that 50,000 plus target. Cardano, how you doing? All right, let's pick on Cardano for a second. Kind of putting in a head and shoulders here on the Bitcoin parent. Again, going to follow whatever the rest of the market does. I wouldn't rule out another move back up to the top side of this blue box territory. However, it doesn't really do all that much for this asset. It's kind of in a do or die situation right here. I really just don't want to see it take out the low of this current week. Let's see exactly where it is by just shuffling down to a weekly right here. The low this week is currently 580 Satoshis, essentially. As long as that doesn't get taken out, I do think that you are going to see the golden cross take over, and it'll just kind of float its way back up to this high at about 690, 700 Satoshis. But it's very, very likely to take up the next leap of faith to the next major level, somewhere around like 800 to 850 Satoshis. I do still think that that's in the cards. However, if we take out this week's low, again at about, I think it was 580 Satoshis, that all goes out the wayside, and we will come very, 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 very likely back down to 530 to 540ish region down here, and this is going to look like redistribution. So it's a tale of crosses right now, but I'd give the nod to the bulls here, just because we are seeing daily Stokes coming down pretty aggressively, so we're allowing them to reset while not really destroying the breakout all that much, and daily RSI is potentially Well, it's actually not even making hidden bullish evidence, so fair enough. That goes out the wayside too. I'm not so confident on this chart. Leave that one out. Probably shouldn't even spoken about it. Ripple. Let's go check out Ripple. All right, how's Ripple doing? Actually, kind of same thing going on right here. Golden cross potentially coming on along the way between the green and the purple. That's 55 and 200. If that does happen before this one shatters down, then I'd be looking for just float back up to its prior highs at 33 cents and beyond. If we do take out yesterday's low though at 26 cents, that's very unlikely to happen. I'd be looking for a move back down to like 24 cents and probably lower. This would look like yet again another bull trap over the macro, and more importantly, the weekly close is gonna really denote where we kind of stand on this asset. If the weekly can close even just above like 30 cents, it'd be more or less good, and I'd be looking for continuation probably into like the 40 or 50 cent region. But as it is right now, this looks more like a rejection than anything else, with continuation implied to the downside longer term, actually all the way down to about 24 cents. More sorry, I should say more medium term. Anyways, okay, this video has already been 40 minutes long. Let's briefly look at traditional markets. Close the day down a little bit. Weekly could close as a doji dildo. If it does, I would be looking for a little bit of a reprieve, but looking at the daily right here, you can see that this was all bought up, and makes it a little bit more difficult to be bearish. I'd still say kind of the same thing here as on a lot of crypto charts. I look at this as a nice short-term reversal back up to the upside, as long as we remain above yesterday's low at basically like 334. As long as we're above there, I'm generally bullish, generally looking at this to get bought up. However, if we do lose 334, then I'd be looking for a move all the way back down to about 326 region. And what do you know? We tested the exact fucking same area that we spoke about yesterday, breaking down the rising channel to the downside, testing almost exactly right down there. I think it was about a few cents off. But getting bought back up into this channel, I do think that the probabilities are probably on the upside here. Anyways, let's get back on to Bitcoin, wrap this bitch up, and send you off, and then I'll be back on Twitch later tonight. Can kind of wrap this one up a little bit easier. So a 12-hour or a daily total close below 95.50, 9600, then yes, I would be looking for the downside to continue down to 92, probably bounce there, and then continuation down to 85-ish region, give or take, a little bit. By the same token, we could also use yesterday's low as a continuation point at 93.50-ish region. That's going to depend on which exchange that you're using. Some are about 9,400, both equally as good. Probably 9,400 is a little bit better just because it'll tell you sooner. But until that happens, I'm actually not really looking for that to happen. I do think that Bitcoin's probably going to find another wick down here, and then just float its way back upwards and onwards. Now, weekend fuckery is certainly going to be abound, so I would keep an eye out for that. But and my way of dealing with that is just I don't trade it. But overall, I don't think that Bitcoin has the momentum to break down just yet. Even if it is going to break down, I think what's more likely is we're going to probably put in another wicks, a couple more wicks down here, and then float back into this region right here. At which point we'll kind of have the next big piece of price action. Of course, for the macro, above 10,300, this spike high right here, I'd get very bullish for a move to about 10.9 to 11,000. But until that happens, it's still well and far away, and we're technically more close to breaking the downside right here, and the probabilities technically are still on the downside. Little bit more, but just failing to break below today. I would say if Bitcoin just fails to break down below that level today, very, very likely we'll see that probability shift in favor of the upside as you kind of see the squeeze come to the upside once again, and we'll play out another at the very least bounce, and then reassess coming into early next week. So that's going to do it for right now. I want to wish you well. I want to wish you a happy and hopefully restful weekend, devoid of all sorts of Bitcoin factory and sorcery. And until then, take care, and until next time.